Well, hey, everybody. Welcome to the Resilient Living Podcast. Today, I'm here, as usual, with my co host, Jared Wilson. And we're going to be talking about the third principle of David Holmgren's three permaculture principles. And that principle is obtain a yield, which sounds pretty self explanatory, but we definitely have some thoughts to add to that and
Well, it's
some.
kind of the objective, I'm right? I mean, like, you're doing this for a reason. It's so that you can get stuff to keep.
Exactly. Well, and Holmgren, I think, kind of put this towards the beginning so people didn't get discouraged reading through it because, at 12 principles, you get to the end and it's like you should obtain a yield with all of these, but you should be thinking about that from the very beginning.
Yeah,
And
sure.
so, when we set up or design a system, we want to make sure that that system has a better output than input.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, like any business, right? If your
mhm.
overhead is in excess of your income, then yeah, that's not going to last long. And absolutely, gardening applies.
Yeah. Yeah, whether it's gardening or any other portion of permaculture, whatever we're putting an effort into, we should be seeing a effort or a
A net gain.
benefit or a
Yeah.
yield or a net gain out of that. And if you read through the section, one section of Holmgren's principles might sound, especially when you get into the ethics and things, might sound a little bit like, I don't know, why, like some type of whiny, uh, I don't know what the right term is to not be offensive here, but it might sound like one extreme side of the spectrum. And this, as you read through it, almost sounds like the other side, extreme side
Ah,
of the
sure.
the spectrum, right? Where the idea is like you shouldn't be doing all this work without expecting something out of it.
Sure. Yeah. Makes
So,
sense.
but yeah, the real core kind of idea in the principle of obtaining yield is to design the systems that produce useful energy, goods, value. It should be all of those. And your yield might be fruit, it might be vegetables, it
Yeah.
might be saved time, it might be, uh, you know, relational capital or,
Oh, sure.
you know, things like that. So there's actually a lot of different things that this could be applied to.
Sure. I think in my personal experience, saved time is the one I often overlook, but it's the one that's been the most impactful in my life is, if I can just save just a couple minutes a day on that one thing, it adds up so much. So, yeah,
Yeah. Well, and there's the old slogan for the ATMs is time is money,
that's
right?
right. That's right.
Um, and
And you don't get it back. Like there's a lot of
right,
things I can recoup more of. I can end up getting more money. I can end up with more acreage. I can't get my time back.
exactly. Yeah, time is I think probably the only commodity that you can't. And maybe it's not a commodity, but it's something you can't get
It's a
back.
consumable. So,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, exactly. It's a consumable. And so when we're investing time into something, we don't always have a 100% guaranteed return or return on investment,
right.
but we should recognize that whatever we're doing, we should have that um, intention designed into it. And then we need to go back to accepting feedback.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
gotta evaluate. Was it
Mhm.
effective? Can I tweak it? Do I need to just drop it? Maybe it's a sunk cost, and we're just like, nope, that didn't work.
Yeah. Well, one of the previous principles that we talked about was observe and interact.
Yep, exactly.
And so to step back and to observe how did my actions and my choices and the things that I was doing, how did those respond? Like,
Yeah,
how did those things turn out? And then react based off of that. Or I actually don't like the word react a whole lot, but
okay,
um, you're responding to the situational awareness that you're bringing to the situation
sure,
based on the different uh, outcomes that you got from the first attempt or the second attempt or the third attempt.
right,
Um,
sure.
it's like my first garden. I think I've told this story before, but my first garden, when I started realizing how important eating better
Mm,
was an abysmal failure.
uh,
It was, something Megan had found on Instagram or I don't know, what Pinterest, I think, was the big thing back then.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and it was like a palette, like a kind of horizontally angled a little
Okay.
bit, or vertically angled a little bit against a wall, and then you kind of fill the
The
slats
little
with.
voids with the soil or
Yeah.
whatever.
Yep.
Okay, sure.
I was like, "Oh, that's cute."
Yeah, sure, why
No
not?
clue as to why it would work or wouldn't work. So, and the pictures look great on Pinterest. They've
Yes.
got peppers growing out of them and tomatoes and
Sure they
everything's
did.
grown out. It looks great. Of course, they just transferred those to the thing for the day to take pictures because there's no way that would work that way.
No, no,
Um,
no.
so I try this thing. We get, a handful of peas and maybe a little bit of lettuce off of it. That's it. And I'm like, well,
Right.
I've got to learn why this didn't work.
Yeah.
So I observed.
Yep.
Now I'm interacting.
Yep.
Now I'm reacting in a certain sense to what I observed. And because I need a yield out of this, I'm not doing it
Yeah, it's
just to look pretty.
intentional. Yeah, this is we're doing this. Yeah.
Yeah. And we're going to talk, one of the future principles, I believe it's principle 8, is about, I call it function stacking, but let's see, in the literature, it's called, um, actually, I don't even remember. So we'll just stick with
Function
function
stacking
stacking.
works.
But it's the idea that everything serves multiple purposes.
Definitely should. Yep. Well,
And
even
the
like
more,
our EDC bag, haul last week. If it's in your bag, it really should serve more purposes than just one.
yeah, yeah, exactly. Nothing should do one thing.
Mhm.
Um, and you should have an output from something else that becomes,
An
output
input to
from
something.
A,
Yeah.
yeah, becomes input
Yeah.
B. And the easiest way to explain this is chickens in a garden.
Yeah.
So my primary outcome from my egg layer chickens is eggs. That's mostly
Yeah.
what
It's what they're there
that's
for.
70% of what they're there for, right? But they're going to take scraps from my garden, rotten tomatoes or kitchen scraps or whatever. They're going to turn those into eggs.
Yeah.
But
Right.
on top of that, if I set it up right, I can take, leaves and dead debris from my forest and grass clippings if I'm mowing my lawn or whatever else, wood chips, things like that I get for
Yep.
free, throw them
Right.
all in with the chickens along with, all the other stuff we talked about. And now they're making compost for me. So they're making eggs and compost,
Yeah.
and they're taking care of a waste stream. And so it kind of goes full circle. Got garden scraps go to the chickens. Chickens eat
Yes.
that, make eggs. They excrete that out and mix it into something else, and it makes compost. And that compost goes back on the garden to make better vegetables the next year.
Awesome.
So that's a very, very small or a very tight example of kind of closing the loop
Yeah.
to make sure that you're obtaining a yield.
But yeah, and well, we've talked about it before. Like, you have your ducks, so you set up your water basin so that it can flush out and provide nutrients to your trees. Your pigs, are gonna root around the trees to get the nuts. They're all of this big old long circle. Yeah.
Yep, absolutely. So I've got a few quotes, as I like to do, just throw in some quotes for each of these. And the first one that I've got is from Bill Mollison, and he was the co-founder with David Holmgren of the concept of permaculture. And what he said on this topic was that permaculture must be productive. If a design doesn't yield or improve your life, it is just gardening with extra steps.
Oh, yes. Right.
And I think we'll kind of keep coming back to that idea because what the idea of design, and throughout this entire series that we're doing, design is so important. You're actually, you're writing down your goals, you're looking at your property, and you're putting all that into something called the design. Even if you don't put it on paper, you're always designing your home, and you can design it poorly or you can design it well.
Yes.
And thinking about, does that design, how does it impact all the other systems that I
Sure.
have? Is it net positive, or is it a waste of my time where I'm going to spin my wheels?
Right. Right.
The easiest way to explain that part of it is, let's say I want to put in a garden I should put that, generally speaking, as close as feasibly possible to my home in the design because I want to interact with it every day.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
And I
Keeping
don't want
bugs
to waste.
out and
Mhm.
yeah.
And it's a waste of my time to walk to the far side of the property to work on something that I'm going to work on every day.
Sure, sure. It's good
Same with the,
exercise.
yeah, it's good exercise, but there's lots of other ways to get that.
Yes.
Um, and so now, additionally, I should think about putting my chickens near my garden because I know my chickens are going to integrate with my garden in
Sure.
two ways. And so if they're too far away, then it's now I've got to walk my compost from my chickens back to my garden, wheelbarrow or whatever, and I have to walk all the scraps from the garden to the chickens, and it becomes a lot dramatically less efficient the further the two get apart.
Right.
So, stacking those functions, thinking about where they sit on the property, all of this is going to make a huge difference as far as as far as obtaining a yield and maximizing that yield
Yeah.
as
I mean,
well.
you're saving that's your 5 minutes a day. You're not having to walk all the way back. Cause like when we first bought the place, they had a garden, but it was way in the back. And I looked at that. I was like, no, I'm not about to walk all the way back there to go garden. That's no,
Right. Yeah, I saw that one. That's a long ways back there.
it
It's
is.
it's not really viable,
No,
unfortunately.
it's not. It's good soil back there though. Maybe I'll just move the soil up.
Yeah. Yeah, you could do that. You could scrape it and move it up or find another purpose for it like perennials.
Yeah. Right.
We got a comment here, just asking if we have heard of Gabe Owens.
Oh,
Sounds familiar, but I'm not especially familiar. Like
nope.
the name sounds familiar, but I don't think I'm aware.
Hmm.
So fill us in, and we'll. I'd be intrigued to figure out more about Gabe. Yeah, owners, Gabe owners. I read that wrong. So yeah, let's see. We talked a little bit already about closed loops or closing the loop as much as we can, because that's really going to help increase our yield.
Sure. Yes.
I've talked before about stone lines or
Yeah.
other gabion walls and other things to catch what would otherwise be waste as it goes downhill. So capturing that and holding that, like we talked about last week, capturing energy and holding
Yeah.
that energy
Right.
is going to be a way of increasing our yield. Um, so what people will notice is an kind of an ongoing, reoccurring topic here is that everything ties together.
Always does.
Yeah. One of the big mistakes that people miss in doing this is because they're thinking long term, they don't think about the immediate returns.
Okay.
Um, so it'd be kind of like thinking about your retirement, but not paying your mortgage,
Oh,
right?
okay. Sure.
Or not buying food
Right.
because you're too focused on the future, but you're going to fail with
In the
setting
short term.
aside for your retirement because you'll starve to death if you don't get food,
Right.
right? So as we're thinking about obtaining a yield, we need to think about short-term yields and long-term yields. Um, so the way to think about this would be maybe this year I plant a garden, but I also start on an orchard. And as I start on that orchard,
Sure.
it's maybe 10 years out before it's really producing much,
Yeah.
but I've got something that I've put in that has, this year it's got an annual return.
Sure. Sure. That makes good sense. I like that. Yeah.
Yep. So we need to, so now it's kind of that balance of I'm paying my existing bills, I'm taking care of the soil. I'm building all of this for a long-term benefit, but I'm making sure that I'm fed, that my family's fed, that, things are taken care of,
Yeah. Yeah.
short term as well.
Well, I mean, that's the, I want to say you said it was a Chinese adage of, planting the tree that you won't get shade from, of thinking about that future generation. Like I want to build up infrastructure that I may not get the benefit directly from, but it's that investment.
Right. Yeah. The it's something along the lines of that the measure of a society is how
That's
willing men who would never sit under the shade of a tree are to plant one.
right. Right.
Um, yeah, absolutely. And I was watching a video the other day where somebody was talking about having been in a managed forest by some of the Native Americans.
Oh, okay.
And so it was one of the few managed forests that hasn't been destroyed, essentially.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And so it's still producing huge amounts of food by itself, as is. And there's some
Right.
really interesting research that's found that a huge majority of the Amazon basin
I've
is,
read that. Yes.
yeah, is
It's still
actually,
working. Yeah.
it's not only is it still working, but it's like it was an
Mhm.
intentionally planted food forest
Right.
ecosystem.
Yep.
Um, and then there's something called terra preta down there,
Okay.
which so terra preta in the Amazon, basically the issue with rainforests, they're kind of like a really wet desert in
Okay.
that they tend to be very sandy and water moves through them very
Uh,
quickly.
oh,
So it strips all the mineral out of the soil. And so these plants have very little actual nutrients to work with.
interesting.
And so the people of the region, however they discovered it, what they were doing is they dig out these big pits, and they poop and pee into a jar, like a very
Okay.
crude clay pot.
Okay. Yeah.
Right?
Right.
So they throw that into these holes, and then um, it's debated as to why or what, but basically they figured out that using char in the hole with the human waste got rid of all the smell. But what this
Sure.
did is you're adding clay to the soil with the pot,
Right.
you're adding fertility, and then you're adding a mechanism to hold those in the soil in that location with the char,
Right.
which becomes biochar. And so this system, once it's in place in your little square where you've dug that out and done that,
Right.
is self-perpetuating for literally thousands of years.
Wow.
And if it's managed right, it'll actually start to move, the quality of the soil will start to move out, because this will be a central point for microbes and nutrient
Nice.
complexities and things. So it's this incredible system. So that's called Terra Preta. They've actually
Ha.
figured out people will scrape the top layer off and it will rebuild itself quite quickly. And
No.
so
Wow.
you can even buy, you know, Terra Preta uh, scrapings.
Ha.
So, yeah. Anyways,
So that's what Vic needs to do out out in Arizona.
that's right. Yep.
There you go, Rocky. Go for it. Go
Yep.
poop in the pot.
We gave you an idea. Run with it. So yeah, it's Terra Preta or some of these other managed systems throughout the world that I think science is finally just realizing and recognizing are
Like, oh,
there
they actually knew what they
because
were
of,
doing.
yeah, oftentimes thousands of years ago,
Right.
and been functioning since then. So there is a point in thinking about long term, thinking about seventh generational type thinking, planning,
Sure.
prepping.
Sure.
But it's no good if you don't get a yield right now.
Yeah. If you don't make it through the winter, well, there was really, yeah.
Yeah, and then and then you're going to have some survivorship bias issues.
Right. Like, well, obviously that didn't work. Well, no, actually.
Yeah. So Vic out there says yes. Short-term goals lead to long-term, or yeah, lead
Yep.
to long-term goals, and that's true.
That's very
Um,
true.
you really can't have long-term goals without having something short-term that you're actually pushing towards.
Yeah. You can
Um,
work towards additional long-term goals in addition to, but you're constantly working in the short term. You just are. You
right.
exist. So yeah.
Yeah, and just like an investment, your short-term investments are important, but if that's all you ever think about, your long-term wealth and well-being are not considered.
Right.
Um,
Right.
so you use one as a springboard into the next.
Absolutely.
Yep. So here is another quote. This one's from Jeff Lawton, and he says, "Abundance is the proof of good design. When your system yields more than you put in, you know you're working with nature and not against it."
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's been like even like with my wife, like that's the one thing she didn't like about gardening. She's like, I don't like having to go out there and fuss with it all the time. Like, well, we're we're working towards not having to do that. Like that's the goal, is not having to fuss with it
Right.
nearly as much as we are, because we had so much encroaching grasses because of the types of grasses that we have here in Tennessee. And it was just it was a pain. It really was. I'm like, it's we didn't do a good, because we did kind of what you did. We did this long, thin strip along the back fence of our house. And so we just had this massive amount of surface area to the encroaching grass that was
Mhm.
very aggressively encroaching.
Yes. Yeah, where I grew up, that works great. You can do long, skinny gardens.
Right?
If you do it here, now you need to think about putting in some type of physical barrier that keeps those grasses out.
Yeah.
And the
And
longer and
even then,
skinnier it is,
yeah, the
y-
worst it's going to be.
well, and not only that, like as you think about how much edge there is and how much you have to protect, now it's extra labor and extra materials because you made it long and skinny. Whereas
Sure.
you'd have the same growing space if you just made it square, but with a lot less edge.
Yep. Absolutely.
So, yeah, and then, you can do cool things to maintain those edges. Sometimes I've seen you gotta do it right, but and again, it comes to subtleties in design, but I've seen a lot of people do, chicken tunnels around their gardens,
Oh, yeah. Right.
and the trick there is making sure your density is high enough of chickens that they actually keep it weed free,
Ah,
because it's really tough to maintain if you don't have enough chickens.
sure.
It
Sure.
becomes kind of a nightmare, actually. Um,
Yeah. Getting inside of a tunnel to clean. Nope. That's
no,
not going to happen.
no, even if it's a straight up, open air
Yeah.
tunnel, essentially, you're just not going to climb in there. Um,
Right.
so yeah, again, just subtlety in design. When you're thinking about the design of your property, you need to think about those little things. Like I've got encroaching grass, so you know, uh, I make it square instead of, or
Sure.
maybe I used
Or
raised
raised.
beds. That,
Yeah.
yep.
Exactly.
And when you do raised beds, then dig them in a few inches because that's going to keep the grasses from coming under
Right.
as well. So yeah, just little things, and you only learn that through observing and interacting, or maybe being told. But
Yeah. And that's where, having community and having experts like, like yourself, being able to teach people about all of these tricks is, hey, learn from my mistakes. Don't
yep,
repeat what I did. You'll be better off. And so everybody gets a couple year leg up on, you know, whatever.
right. One, I have done consults like out of state, quite a ways away, but I
Yeah,
really especially love doing them here in Tennessee
sure.
and Kentucky and northern Georgia and things, because there's so many similarities to what I'm dealing with.
Sure.
And so the day-to-day subtleties that I've worked through are now something that I can just hand on and hand off to, somebody else
Right.
fairly easily without having to think about some of those, or, watch somebody make mistakes that I couldn't help prevent because I didn't know their
Yeah. They're zone
area as well.
four, or they're,
Yeah.
it's like, that's totally different.
Yep. Yeah, there's a lady who reached out to me from California,
Oh,
and I
wow.
was like, I'd be happy to help you, but the reality is if I can find somebody closer who does this kind of work,
Right.
I'd much rather have them help you because,
Well, and even California, like, so I was in like North California, and the climate there is totally different because we were in, pine trees. So we had highly
right.
acidic soil. It was red clay. But then you get, just down into the valley, and you've got this really rich, loamy, soil that was all part of this, used to be a lake at one point that's, dried up, and it totally different. Then you go down south, Bakersfield, and that's just the armpit of the world. And it's there's all kinds of different things. California's huge and diverse.
Mhm.
That's a
Yeah.
hard one.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, I was able to find her somebody who is like
Nice.
30 minutes from her because of my network.
Awesome.
But those, just to reiterate, those little subtleties, those little differences in your climate, in your area, make a big difference in how you respond to things. And
Absolutely.
driving from my house to your house,
Oh, yeah,
man,
right? And Vic is the same thing, like, yeah, these
yeah,
little microclimates they're crazy diverse.
yep. Yeah, between like me and, well, let's say Dunlap, which is South
Yeah,
EU.
yeah,
Like you go from my house, which is actually quite it's it's basic on the pH scale. It's
yeah, I
very,
gotcha.
yeah, it's very basic. And then you get down near Dunlap and it's so acidic that like blueberries grow everywhere.
Yes.
And it's like blueberries, strawberries, and dogwoods are basically what's growing,
Mhm.
because it's so far on that acidic side.
Yep.
Um, so yeah, I mean, even within our little region, there's these huge variations in flora and fauna, and how we think about setting up systems. And so, for somebody like that, I'm going to tend to recommend things that grow in acidic soil more.
Oh, yeah.
Um, but you know, I also know what grows in our area and grows in acidic soil.
Right. Right. Yes. Yeah.
So, uh, let's see. We had a couple comments come through. Did you see any of those that we should
Oh,
hit?
Vic was agreeing that, Bakersfield is pretty bad.
I haven't been there, so I can't say, but
I
I'll
I
take
had a
your word
hospital
on it.
down there, and I did not like going to that hospital. It was no fun.
How far away was that from you?
Bakersfield was, if I left really early in the morning so I could beat traffic, it was almost 9 hours.
Okay, that's a
Yeah,
ways.
it was ways, yeah. It was better
Yeah.
than LA because LA was 10 hours, and that sucked.
Yep.
Hated L I would leave at, like, 3 AM to get out of LA so that I could get out before the traffic started, and even then, there was still traffic. Like, "Don't
There
you all
always
sleep?"
is, I think.
Wild.
Yep.
Don't miss that at all.
So, we're gonna get into the common pitfalls, but first I'm gonna do another quote. This one's from Sepp Holzer on the topic.
Hey.
He's Austrian, I believe, but he said that nature rewards you with a yield when you create the right conditions. The job of the designer is to make those conditions inevitable.
Nice. Yeah,
Yep.
when you provide all of the opportunities for something to grow, it'll grow. I mean, like, it'll happen. It's just
Right.
a matter of paying attention to, what God already set up, and
Yeah. Well, and just finding ways to favor the things you want, and ideally simple ways or ways that actually benefit you. And so an example of this is, let's say, grazing.
okay, yeah,
You you can use standard grazing, and you're not designing for anything. You're just saying, I'm going to make meat out of grass, and that's
yes,
it.
right,
No more thought than that. And so what ends up happening, because the design is bad, is that the grass starts to go away
right.
and you have less of what you need to continue to sustain a
So you
yield.
have to end up moving them to somewhere else. Yeah,
Exactly. So what you should be doing is moving them consistently mimicking nature.
yeah, where they
Where
would, as a herd, move through an area.
Yep, and they're going to trample down those weeds, and it's going to increase the fertility. It's going to increase the holding capacity of the soil. It's going to increase the grasses and the things that those animals are eating heavily, trampling, moving on,
Right,
eating
right.
heavily, trampling, moving on. And in fact, there's a really fascinating, I believe it's on YouTube and free, but documentary on how wolves changed Yellowstone.
Yes, it's awesome. Go
It
watch
is
that. If you haven't watched that, go watch it.
absolutely. So yeah, if anybody watching has not seen that, I'm not even gonna have hurt feelings if you stop right now and go watch it. Um,
It's good. It's that good.
it's so informative for understanding how God made systems to interact with each other
Mhm.
and how incredibly designed it is. And it starts to open your eyes to this idea that there's a way of doing the thing you're wanting to do without killing yourself.
Yep.
As Sepp Holzer said, who I just quoted, he also said, if you don't want the pigs, you've got to do the pig's job.
Right. Yeah.
Meaning you have to recognize what the animal does and does for you and release them to do that. Design so that they're released to do the thing that they love to do.
I mean, what other creature can just turn table scraps into bacon? That's just a miracle in and of itself.
None by definition.
That's true.
But yeah, so I guess what I'm getting at is you need to be constantly aware of and looking at, well, let me go back. We never really described what was happening with reintroducing wolves to Yellowstone.
Okay. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so the basics are that the elk and bison and things that they're trying to bring the numbers back of were staying in one area. And so they were
Mhm.
staying typically by a river,
Right.
and they were overeating and they were causing erosion, causing these rivers actually to straighten out
Yes.
and
Which
run too
changes the
fast.
velocity of the water, yes. Right.
Yep. And so when there were curves, it would just eat away at the edges and cause all kinds of erosive issues. The animals were unhealthy
Yes.
because there's nothing picking off the unhealthy
Yep. No
ones.
predators.
Right. No predators. Plus, they're staying in one place. So, a lot more issues with parasites and things like that.
Mhm.
And as they started reintroducing wolves to the Yellowstone ecosystem, these megafauna basically started. Is that the right word? Anyways, the
I think so.
fauna,
Yeah.
the large herbivores start to be moved around, and so they're no longer able to stay in one highly preferred spot. You're basically getting fat and sick and destroying it.
Right.
And so we can replicate that by moving our own animals on a consistent basis, like the wolves do to the herds of bison or
Hmm.
you know uh, elk and things.
Yep.
So something that we might not think of as being connected when you start to see like that documentary, um, your brain starts to turn on and see that there's ways to do that.
Yeah. Oh, I can mimic that. Yeah.
Right. And for me, one of those big ones was watching chickens scratch.
Okay.
Like they're super entertaining. I mean, chickens, one of their benefits is that they entertain you.
Yeah. They're fun.
Yeah. And what I realized in being entertained by them and in watching them is they scratch. And most people get pissed off because they come up and they scratch out your, flower beds or whatever.
Yeah. Because they're in an area that they probably shouldn't be in the first place.
Right. And they hop up on your porch and they poop. And those are examples of how chickens actually become destructive, problematic, right?
Mhm.
But you can take that tendency of theirs and flip it, and it becomes, they become my compost turners,
Yes.
right? So it's not that there's no point in turning compost, but I've never personally turned a pile of compost.
Don't need to. They
No,
did.
my chickens do it. It's a slower process, creates a little bit different product, but it's really
Yeah.
great for my garden, and I don't have time to flip compost twice a day for 21 days or whatever
Yeah. No,
stupid.
that's not going to happen. Nope.
If I did anything else, it would be a Johnson Sioux bioreactor.
Oh,
But
there you go.
that's a different
I ain't getting
story.
fancy.
Yeah, exactly. Or a modified one that really simple. But yeah, anyways, those subtleties as you're designing, if you design right, you should be getting more output than you're putting into it. But that does take some initial investment. It does take some initial time and thought into it
Sure.
to get to that point.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So is that would be a good evaluation tool, is like, if I'm having to constantly put into this system, what can I add to the system to streamline that process? Something that can do at least one of these steps for me. So yeah.
Yeah. Well, so we're going to talk a little bit about common pitfalls. And the first one that I had here was designing a system that's ecological, but not productive.
Ah,
And
sure.
so I would think of this as like maybe like a giant wildflower field.
Oh yeah, sure.
Like it, helps dung beetles and,
Yeah,
you know,
it's good. It's pretty.
butterflies. Right. It looks pretty, But are you having to constantly replant that
Yeah.
because the varieties of things that you're growing are not appropriate for your area,
Right.
or maybe it's not being grazed in a way that that the ecology should be, and so
Hmm.
you're missing something that makes it not come full circle.
Right. Yeah. You're like
Uh,
almost there. Not quite.
yeah, and so now you're putting in these constant inputs to make something that appears ecological, or appears to be a ecosystem, but it's clearly not because you're having to put constant inputs into it.
Hmm. Hmm.
And you're really not getting anything beneficial out of it. And so the idea of a wildflower patch is great and it's pretty and you can maybe the beauty is part of,
Yes.
your yield.
Yeah.
But if you're doing it in such a way that it's constant work for you, constant extra cost for you, you're
Yes.
having to buy seed, spread seed, prepare the ground, you're doing it wrong.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. You can totally have a beautiful area that takes care of itself.
Mhm. Yeah, or you can, another way to look at this where you're designing a system that seems ecological but it's not productive is you could be planting trees that only have one purpose and that's to look nice.
Oh, yeah. Right. Oh, yes.
Bringing in mulch from a mulch company instead of just using, something that's coming off your property or wood chips or something
Hmm.
else that's a totally viable organic substance
Hmm.
that is free or cheap, going out and spending a bunch of money on it, putting in edging so it looks nice to the eye. Like
Yes.
some of
Right.
these things, they don't have a yield.
No.
Um, and not at least not one that's especially beneficial to us. So um, yeah, what do you have any specific thoughts or examples of creating a system that looks ecological but really just isn't productive?
So in our first house in town back in Paradise, the contractor had made this concrete ring in the front grass, and he had planted these four maple trees. They're a fairly shallow root tree, and so all of the concrete that was around it was all broken up because all the roots ran. I couldn't barely mow the grass because the roots were just peeking above ground all the time. It was just it was a nightmare. I had to fuss with all the leaves all the time. It was. I wish he had picked just about any other tree aside from those maples. They were just awful.
But were they pretty in the fall?
Oh gosh, it was gorgeous. And he picked different species, so the colors were all different. They turned at different times. There was like this rich, dark purple to these golds and reds that were just vibrant. Oh, it was beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. I hated them. I absolutely hated them.
Yep. Yeah, I think we as humans tend to make things hard on ourselves because it's
We're
what
good
we've
at
always
that.
done, right? Yeah,
Yes.
we're good at it. Like a grass yard. You know,
Yes.
I've been trying to get my yard to basically largely be overtaken by clover, by
Nice.
like
Yeah.
a white clover. And I'm not going to get rid of the Bermuda grass without like going,
Really. Yeah.
full glyphosate on my entire yard, which I'm
Yeah.
not going to do.
Right.
Um, but grass it's not very useful.
No.
One way I've found to make it more useful is having ducks and a goose
Sure.
because they eat it. We save some for rabbits. So, but moving more towards clover gives them higher protein output. It's better for those animals anyways.
Oh yeah. I've
Less
been
mowing.
a staunch anti-lawn guy for a long time. Ever since I've learned of where the lawn came from and why
Mhm.
it exists as a thing. It irked me. I'm like, no, we're not the aristocracy of England being pretentious about, oh well, I don't need this land to grow my food. I'm going to manicure it and make it into this beautiful area just to show that I don't need all of like that. Like I'm like, no, no, we're not doing this. Like, no.
It That's like, how did it go? So first, people who were chubbier and pale
Hmm.
That was considered like that was
That
the
was beautiful.
indication that you had wealth,
Yeah,
and it
right.
was considered beautiful, right?
Yep.
And then it eventually changed to skinny and a really nice tan,
Yes.
um, which is kind of where we're still at. But it's interesting how, depending on what like wealth allows for, and how that shifts, and how. But anyways, yes, grass is um, an outcropping of, or a manicured lawn is,
Yes.
you know, some old concept from the aristocracy,
Yup.
which I believe, if I'm not mistaken, came from the Taj Mahal in the first place.
Oh, really?
So the aristocracy, somebody in the
Sure.
aristocracy visited the Taj Mahal, which was kept, if I'm not mistaken, by widows with scissors.
Oh my god.
And
That's
so they
worse.
thought that they really needed that.
Yeah, right.
Somebody in the comments, if I'm really off here, fact check me and correct me. But that was my recollection of how that all came about. So
Yeah.
yeah, going towards clover makes a lot of sense,
Oh, yeah.
because a white clover will stay low, but it also is a nitrogen fixer. It's also high protein
High
for the
protein, yep.
animals.
Mhm.
So lots of benefits there. Um, One of the other things that I put down as a common pitfall is not actually storing or saving what you produce. So being able to make a bunch of something
Sure.
and then just letting it go bad.
Well, that's a hard one because, like, and that's one of the reasons, like, Megan and I had discussed, getting some freeze dryers was
Mhm.
because so, like, we had planted a whole bunch of tomato plants, and, of course, they all come to at the same time, and so we were just inundated. We're like, I don't know what to do with all this stuff," and, the only thing we could think of was, like, if we freeze dry this, then at least we can do it quickly and just get it off the the plants. It's hard,
Yeah.
or you're canning or you're drying, like, it's difficult.
Yeah. Well, and this is one of the areas I've really struggled in is I've gotten to a place where I can produce a decent amount.
Sure.
Um, but I'm not necessarily around, during that high production time. I'm typically really busy with work.
So you can't harvest.
Right. And so
Yep.
then it kind of falls on my wife and kids to do the harvesting and
Sure.
the
Preservation. Yeah.
preservation as well.
Yep.
Um, and so they're getting old enough that that's becoming more viable.
Sure. And that's good for them. That's a
Mhm.
good, skill to have and knowledge to have. Absolutely. But that's also a lot of work.
Yes. And there's so many different ways to preserve
Yeah.
too. So one of the ones we've actually fallen on that's just so dead simple easy, depending on what you're using it for, is actually just freezing the stuff. Just
Oh, yeah.
regular old freezer, right?
Right. So
Um,
if you got room for it, just throw it in the freezer. We'll deal with
yeah,
it later.
and freezers are not that expensive. I mean,
No.
in the grand scheme of things, keeping them running is not all that expensive. Their power use is fairly low.
Right.
Um, so the issue there is a lot of things you would think of freezing, you might need to blanch or do some special preparation. But what
Sure.
we've found is if we're making a soup or stew out of it, it
Mm,
doesn't really matter.
sure. Because you're
So
gonna
that's a
boil it anyway.
Yeah, exactly. And so we end up doing a lot of their meat centric soups and stews, but then they have our, frozen veggies from the summer and fall in them
Nice.
as well. Yeah.
Sure.
Um, Takes up more room. There's some downsides, but it makes the actual saving of it a lot easier.
Mhm.
Or
Oh, yeah, and that's a
preserving
lot
it.
faster. Just throw it in a, Ziploc or, um, we did, we got a vacuum sealer, and that helped with some of those bigger, bulkier things that just suck them down, and they freeze up nicely without any air in them. That helped.
Yep. Yeah, another one that I'm actually pretty fond of is you can get for your, vacuum sealer, a lot of times you can get these caps that will go over mason jars.
Oh, yeah. Yes, ours has that. It has the tube that you can
Yep.
just put and it just goes right on the mason jar and just
Yeah.
awesome.
So let's say you dehydrated a whole bunch of mint from your garden.
Yeah,
You can
right,
throw it in a container, suck all the oxygen out, maybe even put in an O2 absorber of
right.
some sort as well, which you can use those hand warmers. Not sure if you're familiar with this,
You,
but the
yeah,
chemical hand and foot warmers.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
It's the same thing that's in a lot of the O2 absorbers, but it's
Interesting.
typically cheaper and more available.
Oh yeah,
Or if
I've got them in
yeah,
the shop.
yeah.
That's I'll
So
have to play with.
the oxidizing process that happens in them is what soaks up the O2.
Sure.
It's the same process. It's just, slightly different makeup, but it works. Um,
Interesting. The heat doesn't affect the what you're trying to
I'm not
preserve.
sure. I think you break it open, you let it mostly
Oh,
kind of
okay.
fizzle out, and then you throw
Okay.
it. Is
Nice.
I think again, check check me on
I'm
that.
gonna.
'Cause
I was like,
yeah,
I want to see.
yeah.
That'd be
Um,
easy.
but those work great. But if you've got a quart of dried herbs, and now you can preserve it,
Right.
and you just go in there and you take out a chunk for whatever your next month is or whatever,
Sure.
and then you put it back on, suck out the air again, and you can save that for quite some time that way.
Sure. I've actually started saving small batches as opposed to big
Mhm.
one because originally it's like, oh, I'll just throw this in this gallon jug and we'll preserve it. And then every time I'd have to reseal it, and it was such a pain. I'm like, I'm gonna do it in smaller ones next time.
Yeah.
This is a pain.
Um, there's a guy who's part of some of the networks I'm in, Toby from Discount Mylar Bags. So if you need
Oh,
Mylar bags,
nice.
really great local guy who gets good prices on things. But um, he gives a lot of advice on his website about how to package things with the Mylar bags.
Oh, very cool.
And one of the big things he says is it seems like it's a good idea to package in large bags to be efficient,
You're
but
right.
it's
Yeah.
not. Like, you don't need your family. If you're going to open up rice, you probably don't need 20 pounds of rice.
Right.
Like, you're barely going to get through that before it goes bad.
Yes,
Um,
exactly. I'm like, if you got 12 kids, then yeah,
mhm,
maybe, but yeah,
right. Yeah.
even
So
then,
put it
probably not.
put it in, single or double serving
Yeah.
amounts
Yeah,
for your
because even
family.
then, it's like you're opening 2 Mylars to get, your whole family. Oh, oh, well,
Yeah.
that's fine.
Or maybe it's one for a meal.
Yeah,
You size
exactly.
it appropriately for each meal. Um,
Absolutely.
because one of the issues with preserving is that it's so easy to it's easier to preserve in big containers, whether that's quart jars instead of pint jars or whatever. But
Right.
once you've opened something, then there's a ticking clock on it.
Sure. Yeah, yes. Have you
Um,
noticed that, after having been frozen, that it goes bad quicker than I've noticed on several things that things go bad
oh
quickly.
yeah, yeah, because you're bursting the capillaries inside.
Yeah, all the cells are just popped, and so they
Yeah,
just like yeah,
yep. So when it freezes, obviously water expands, it pops the cells, and then it essentially becomes mush. And
yeah.
it's kind of like the difference between a steak and ground beef, where a steak is a lot safer to have as, have some red or pink in it.
You're right.
Whereas a burger, it's probably fine, especially if you get good beef. But the ground beef is a lot more susceptible to, you know, basically taking in pathogens or
Sure,
just microbes in general. And so once you freeze something and you break the cell walls,
sure.
it's going to be a lot more susceptible to that. So yeah, that tracks. Another thing, and I'm not going to get too far into this today, but
Mm,
another thing that goes along with, don't make too big a batches. So when you open it, you can get through all of it.
right.
The other side of that is don't just leave things sitting on your shelf. Don't
Oh,
store things you're not going to eat.
yes.
So,
Yes.
or, don't store it thinking I need this for the future and then not use it because you're so worried about having all the reserves.
Yeah, I gotta hold on to this, yeah.
Yep.
Oh, so Meg and I just, when I was cleaning up the office to make the studio thing, we were moving a whole bunch of shelving around, and so we were going through all of our pantry items, and so we were opening up boxes, and I kid you not, we'd open a box, and it was, black beans, lentils of some flavor, and garbanzo beans, and every time we'd open a box, it was garbanzo beans, garbanzo beans. Like we'd open another box, garbanzo beans, garbanzo beans. We'd open another box, like, oh my gosh, please tell me there's not garbanzos. And she's like cracking up. She's like, oh, it's full of garbanzo. Like, oh my gosh.
So
So
those are the ones your family doesn't like?
it's just no,
Okay.
we had found them really cheap, and we
Okay.
just kept buying them incrementally. Every time we go to the grocery store, it's like, oh, throw a couple bags in there. They're all dried. And so we were just filling up, and then and we've continued to do that ever since. And so it's just been accumulating because we still go through them,
Mhm.
but not nearly as quickly as we were accumulating them. And so yeah,
Okay.
now we have a one of those fryers now. We just they had them on sale at Sam's Club. I was so stoked. I've been wanting one of the dry ones, so it's not an oil bath. Yeah,
Air
air dryer. Yeah,
fryer.
yeah,
Yeah.
yes, we got one of those, and so I'm really stoked. I want to try. I've seen that they kind of pop almost like a popcorn,
Oh,
and
interesting.
you can flavor them with all kinds of different flavors. I'm like, we're having like garbanzo beans as our popcorn substitute because
Nice.
that's awesome.
Yeah. I think Amaranth does that too,
Yeah,
or one of those
I've heard that.
small
Amaranth,
quinoa maybe.
I really wanted to love amaranth, but it's a bit of a pain to harvest from what I've seen.
Amaranth is I personally don't think it's a good human grain. I
Oh,
think
okay.
that it's a great livestock grain.
I'll say because it grows pretty easily and pretty well in certain climates.
Yep. Yeah, so in my case, I might grow some just downhill for my chickens.
Okay.
So it's gonna use all that fertility, and then I just
Nice.
cut the heads off and throw them to the chickens.
Nice.
And the
All right.
chickens do the harvesting, it keeps them busy.
Perfect.
Yeah, so amaranth is great for the right thing, but you could waste your entire day trying to harvest it and get,
And
half of
that's
a
a
meal's
perfect
worth.
example of what we're talking about. It's like you invest all this time and effort growing amaranth because yes, it is good, high protein, grain ish. But then if you end up wasting like 3 times more just to harvest it and get something functional and usable, it really wasn't a net positive there.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. So, what I was gonna say is first in, first out,
Oh yes, yes, I
right?
love my
So
FIFO system.
yes. Yeah, FIFO, first in, first out. So, making sure that whatever you're storing, that you're using that thing before you use the newest stored thing.
Yep.
Um, and our my friend Nicole Sauce
Yeah.
talks about this a lot because she's kind of like the pantry management expert,
Nice.
and she talks about using what you store and storing what you eat, or
Yes.
storing what you use. So you're not storing a million garbanzo beans that you don't eat,
Right.
and you guys eat them. But
Yeah.
I've
We'll
seen
get
people store boxes and boxes and boxes of beans and rice,
Oh yeah.
and they're 15 years old. It's like, well, nobody
Yeah.
wants to eat that at this point.
Right. Yeah.
It
You
just
should have been eating that all this whole time. Uh-huh.
right. And it has no nutritional value. And if you don't like beans and rice, then don't store huge amounts of beans and rice.
Yes, yes, definitely store what you actually consume, what you actually eat. Absolutely.
Yep. And so I actually talked to a few of those people. I'm like, you don't want to eat this. My chickens might.
Yeah, right. Yes.
And so I've fermented it and thrown it to the chickens, and that works pretty well. But
Oh,
um,
we got a question from Vic.
yeah,
Does Tennessee have blue grama grass? I have a bunch and it's supposed to be great livestock grass. Don't know.
blue
Heard it.
grama, blue gamma, maybe.
I don't know.
Um,
To the Googles.
hey, yeah, there's a few type of the blue variety clumping grasses that grow here.
Okay.
Um, I'm not sure if that's one of them or not, but yes, um, the blue stem is, I think, our
Blue
most common one.
grama. Interesting.
Is it there?
It
Yeah,
is.
I've not heard of that. May or may not grow here, I suppose.
Native range. Stretching from Alberta and Manitoba in the north, south through the Rockies, Great Plains, Midwest, all the way into Mexico,
Hmm.
right down through the middle.
Yeah, that
Interesting.
sounds like
It
drier
does.
regions.
Yep. Typically found in dry prairies, plains, can grow in a variety of well drained soil types. Hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, so for certain
Interesting.
climates, that would probably be a great, grass.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. All right. So the last common pitfall that I put down here is
Yeah.
relying on external inputs because internal yields are not being captured.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. I think we can go too far down this road, right? Where it's you're not raising your chickens right unless all the food comes off your land, or um,
No, we're not being our snobby, nose to the air or whatever. Like, no,
but
chickens have to eat. But if you can grow anything, or you can just have them eat what you already do grow, do that. I mean, why not?
right. And I'm okay with bringing some inputs for my chickens
Yeah.
because now I'm not having to input eggs to my household, right?
Yeah. Well, and you want them to be healthy, and they're
Mhm.
not necessarily going to get all of the nutrients that they need in your yard.
Right. And I'm moving more and more towards that.
Oh, absolutely. That's the goal. That's the end goal. But that's that, in the future, that's what we're working towards, not our immediate.
Right. And so the way I'm looking at it is the more I can disconnect from that system, the less I have to exchange money for the things that I'm going for, the better
Yep.
off I am.
Yep.
The
We're
more
building
free
those
I am.
layers of resilience. Yep.
Yeah.
It's one thing at a
Yeah.
time.
And so the more you can reduce, and we've talked infinite ad infinitum on this, but it's always worth reiterating. The
It
more
is.
you can reduce the exchange of money from one person to another, we're taught in traditional economics, the economy always needs to grow, it always needs to get measurably bigger, uh,
Right.
and that's how it's built, is that needs to happen or it collapses under its own weight. But do we really want to buy into that house of cards, or do we want to be more resilient and stop putting huge chunks of our income towards uh, towards basically building that house of cards bigger and bigger?
Right.
And the more we can do that, the less tax liability we have,
Yeah.
the less we're paying for these systems that most of them I consider pretty evil. Um, Even if you don't go down the conspiracy rabbit holes, just the stuff that we know on the surface,
I was
we're
say that
funding with our dollars.
there's a lot of stuff that just is not good that is
Mhm.
in our systems. And I think pretty much everybody will agree on that. It's like our food isn't entirely food anymore.
Right.
Our healthcare isn't entirely health or care anymore. We
It's
need to do
sick care
something different.
or
Yeah.
death
Well, it
care
is.
for that matter.
Yeah. Well, it's symptom based. It's not health based. It's
Right.
we'll cover up symptoms and introduce some new ones along the way.
Right. Yep, absolutely. And so I think, you know, as more and more people do this, we all get a little bit more free.
We do.
You know, the things I'm doing,
It's
but
functionally it's we're taking responsibility for ourselves and our community, and that's where freedom comes from. It is coming from us taking responsibility, and so the more responsibility we can take, the more freedom we will end up having, and the more freedom our children will have.
yeah, yeah, exactly. And the more freedom each generation after us will have as well.
Yep, they continue carrying that torch.
Hmm. Yeah, and if we do our job right, there should be a certain amount of that self sustains
Yes,
or gets better.
yes,
If I plant a pecan tree, that should get better, after I'm gone. Like it should
Mhm.
be a long term benefit. Um, there was a, I don't know where it came from, but this little story, and it was about basically a grandpa holding up an acorn to a little kid, to his
Mm,
his grandchild, and
yeah,
asking, "What do you see in this acorn?" And the grandfather's thinking, "Oh, it could be it's tiny, but it could be a giant tree, right?"
sure,
And the kid says, "I see a forest," because that's really what it is,
sure.
right?
It's that
Um,
starting point.
yeah, because that tree now is going to put out
More.
millions of acorns.
And those are going to create trees that create more. Yep.
Mhm. And so that's the kind of mindset we need to have, is realizing that that oak tree takes a long time to build. We need a yield in the meantime, but
Yep.
we should also be recognizing what we're building and that there's an investment in that,
Mhm.
a long-term investment in that.
And that's what this podcast is about. That's what this community is about, is just that, it's community. It's having a place for people to have that common mindset of wanting that exact thing, of being able to live in a better world and to be able to pass down the better world to their kids. And that's what this is all about.
Yeah. And kind of in conclusion, in the ideas here, is that think back to last week's podcast and how we talked about uh, lost my train of thought.
You're good.
What was last week's? It was so this week is obtain a yield. We had oh shoot, what was principle two? Sorry, everybody, I am blanking,
You're
but
good.
just that we need these systems to tie together, to be coherent, and to be really well thought out.
Hmm.
Um, and so, ensuring that we're getting an output from the inputs that we put in, ensuring that those stay in the system. That was it. It was capture and store energy.
Oh
So
yeah.
we talked
Right.
so much about keeping things staying in the system for as long as possible, being
Yep.
used over and over and over again. Water shouldn't just run down our property and run away.
And run off. Yeah, exactly.
Right.
No. It's like this
It
is
should be
this
soaking
is
in.
power. Like this has got, the ability to create electricity, or to move nutrients, or to nourish, and to do all three of the above at the same time.
Right. Yeah. And sadly, our as the United States, our largest export by far in tonnage every single year
Yeah.
is topsoil.
Oh gosh. Really?
Yes, and we don't get paid a dollar for it.
Because it just runs out down through the delta.
Yeah,
Yeah, that
it's
sounds about right.
yeah, it hits your stream, your local stream, which hits your local river, which hits eventually the Mississippi or
Yeah.
whatever system you're nearby.
Well, and I don't know if it's still true, but I know at one point it was in the early 2000s. There was a report that 50% of our water supply was lost due to leaks, to internal infrastructure leaks. I'm sorry, 50%. Like that's a huge number. That's a huge number. And that's really what we're talking about here, is like, if if you have this infrastructure on your land, you want to keep it, you want to take care of it, you want to be a good steward of it.
Yeah. Yeah, and if we're losing things, if we're dramatically losing efficiency, we're reducing our yield. And so this very closely mimics, you can paint on top essentially um, economic systems, right? That as you
Yeah.
reduce efficiency, you reduce the yield, you reduce the net until you eventually get to no net or
No,
negative
yeah,
net.
or negative net. That's where we have been for a while. We've just been constantly feeding people into the system to keep the system functioning ish.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, our current economic system is a Ponzi scheme. Let's not make our homesteads a Ponzi scheme.
Right. Yes.
And in some ways, it's hard not to, because we want to see things kind of rosy.
Yeah.
Like,
We want to see
you know,
the pretty Instagram version of our of what it what it could look like.
yeah. Or even just, I might calculate the cost of keeping my chickens differently than I should.
Oh yeah, sure. Yeah.
I think one of the big errors that people tend to make in calculating, what their efficiency is, what their net yield is on a homestead, and especially when they're selling product, is they don't calculate their time,
Yes, absolutely.
or they value their labor at like $10 an hour or
Right.
something. And we should be valuing our labor as much as it is valued elsewhere.
Sure.
And then we're really going to be pressed for finding greater efficiencies
Mm-hmm.
and reducing as much waste and trimming out. I hate the term trimming out the fat, because Fat's actually good for you, but
Well, you trim out
um,
the fat for a purpose because you're going to render that down and use it for stuff. So
there
it's
you
a
go.
good
That's
thing.
right.
That's right.
Okay, I'm
Because we're
back
good.
on board with it.
We're good at homesteading.
You've convinced me. I just like the term anymore. Um, so yeah, keeping that efficiency high so that your yield is high. It's easy to burn out if you're not producing a yield.
Yeah.
Like
Right.
you're gonna at some point go, why am I doing this?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, there's so many homesteaders I've seen, like, they hit that 7 to 10-year mark, and they're done. And
Hmm.
they sell everything, and they move back to the city, and yeah, it's sad.
It is, and it could have been avoided by avoiding putting yourself in a position where you'll burn out, designing things that require constant input, um,
Well,
where you
and
can't step away from it.
we're raised in go to work the 9 to 5, you're just go, 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 work, work, work. Like, that's normal. Like, it's that constant effort. Like, "Oh, well, that's what I'm supposed to be doing." Like, no, you should be refining your system and freeing up time, not
Right.
constantly burning, at both ends, if not all, 3.
Both ends in the middle.
Yeah, and in the
Um,
middle, yeah, exactly.
yeah,
And that's why I love having this community, is because we can help each other. We can be there for each other to encourage one another, to share lessons learned. So yeah, if you're not already part of the Discord server, please, here, I'll put a link in the chat. Go join the Discord server, where we can talk about, what is going on in your homestead, struggles you're having, successes you're having. That's what this is about, is providing a place that we can work together as a community to build a more resilient nation ultimately.
yeah. I mean, we see all the issues, and it's easy to complain, easy to whine about it,
Yep,
easy to blame somebody for it,
absolutely.
but it's a lot harder to go out and do something and make it better for yourself. But it's in another sense, it's not that hard at all. It can be little steps,
It's
little
little steps,
things.
exactly.
that-
It's that incremental responsibility. It's like, no, I'm gonna take responsibility for this one aspect. I'm just gonna do this one little thing.
Yeah.
It'll make it just a little better.
Well, and you and Will last week talked about being prepared, like having, your get home bag,
Yeah.
and, people think about bug out bags and think, that's preparedness, or rice and beans, that's preparedness. And it's like, no, actually 90+% of it is your mindset.
Yes,
You know,
absolutely.
like understanding how something works so that and thinking through different scenarios, not getting stuck on any of them because it's likely that none of them are going to happen the way you've envisioned them,
Oh, yeah, right, yeah.
right? But working your way through different scenarios, and this is true with designing your homestead,
Mhm.
is step through those scenarios, think about them consistently, let that 3-pound computer between your ears
That's right.
run the calculations that even a supercomputer still can't. In with all the little subtleties, all the little different nuances to your property, to your personality, to your household and who's in it and their personalities, to your resources. If you're constantly putting that in your head and thinking through those scenarios, whether it's preparedness, whether it's, situational awareness, all these things start to tie together to help you design a better homestead.
Oh, yeah. Oh,
Um,
yeah.
and, and you know, uh, like we talked about, everything should be tied together. So let's say you want to keep your property from being able to be accessed by large vehicles,
Okay.
and you also want to obtain a yield. And so instead of just putting up, spending a whole bunch of money and putting up a whole bunch of metal posts in
Yeah,
your
sure.
yard that nobody can drive through, well, why don't we grow out a fast growing tree that has produce?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So let's say some mulberry trees.
Ooh,
So
yeah.
along the road frontage, we just plant a whole bunch of mulberry trees. And now we've done two things. We've protected our property from large vehicles coming on, easily at least, and
Right.
we've created a food product for us, for our chickens, for our pigs or whatever else,
Right.
you know, you've been you've taken that awareness that, you know, somebody could enter your property, and you've removed that possibility, and you're situationally aware of different things that could occur, and you've benefited in two ways rather than spent a bunch of money to, you know, stop a situation that's probably not that likely to happen
Sure.
anyways. Right.
But having food is a necessity and is not going to be a net negative. Yeah.
Yeah.
I need to get some cuttings next time I'm out your way from your mulberry because
Yes. Or remind me to bring you some.
sweet.
Yeah. Um, but you know, the other thing is, you know, thinking through preparedness, um, uh, small things like a fence is going to keep out 90% of the people who would be a problem anyways,
Yeah. Right.
even if it's not a super strong, you know, amazing fence.
Yeah.
Um, and so anyways, whatever you're doing, you should tie it together. You should make sure that you're getting as much out of it as possible. And that's not some like selfish, greedy, over the top corporate, you know,
Nope.
corporatism, profiteering kind of thing. It's you should be getting a yield out of the work that you're putting into something.
Yep.
And
If it's worth your time and effort, then you should benefit from it directly.
yep. And you should design it so that those things start to become kind of like passive income.
Yes. Yeah, that's a good example. Yeah, passive income is a good way, yes, to as Vic just said, to close the loops.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's like if you could write a book that you know is going to, you can be pretty certain is going to sell well for a long period of time.
Right?
Well, yeah, it's an investment up front, but you've got a long-term income that's, you know, passive.
Yeah. Just like
So
a fruit or nut tree, just like, yeah, breeding rabbits or whatever. Yeah.
exactly. So, well, Jared, did you have any other thoughts on the matter today?
No, this is good. I like this.
Good. Did you have a product of the week, or were we going
I
to skip
totally
that this week?
forgot about that. I got down here and I mean, we could talk about not night vision, but
Hey, plug it a little bit, and maybe if you want to show people more next week, because you've got something there that you showed me that is
I
pretty cool.
I did. So I got the I'm doing product testing for Day Night Technologies night vision monocular. Great little product. Love it. But then at the same time, I'm also testing several different companies' night vision illuminators. So I built this little rig so I can test the night vision with the illuminators. So stay tuned. We'll have a product review video coming out. You can check our YouTube channel. Actually, that's a pretty good little segue there. I like what I just did. So you can check there we go. You can check our YouTube channel at Resilient Living. But aside from that, or Instagram or TikTok, aside from that, you can find all of our gear at resilientliving.com. So I am Jared Wilson. I run Resilient Living. We sell emergency preparedness stuff, yes, but more than that. Come in the shop and I can help you solve the problems that you may or may not be aware of. I have books, I've got equipment, I know people like Ryan. I can point you in a myriad of different directions to solve a lot of different problems. And that's really what I enjoy doing. I've been thinking about, it's like, what is it that I do? And it's not just sell equipment, it's not just sell the stuff. I like solving problems. That's what I've always done professionally, is solve problems. And so I come up with creative solutions. So that's what I do.
Cool. Yeah, and if people are watching this on my YouTube channel, you know, the Homestead Consultant, um, go over to Jared's, because and just subscribe. Tell YouTube that you actually want to see his stuff, because he's starting to put out some really cool review videos and some
Yeah.
other stuff. But YouTube it's tough to get your feet under you. So do me and him a favor and go over to the Resilient Living YouTube channel, and make sure to subscribe to that as well, and like the videos over there to help get him off the ground a little bit.
Right.
Um, So I'm Ryan Steva. I help people set up homesteads. You can find my information at thehomesteadconsultant.com. My big thing is I like to help people avoid making the mistakes I've made, like pallet gardens and such,
Right.
um, and just be a lot more efficient and get up and going a lot faster, get that yield more quickly and more of it. And so that's kind of what I do. I help you organize your homestead and your goals to really actually meet the goals in as much of a organized fashion as possible. So if you need help with your homestead or have questions about homesteading, solar, off-grid stuff, uh, weird questions about how to do something or something unique on a homestead, that's where I really come in. So you can find all my information at thehomesteadconsultant.com.
Nice.
All right. Well, Jared, thanks for being here with me yet
Oh
again.
yeah.
And
Anytime.
for all those watching, we do this pretty much every Tuesday at 6
Mhm.
p.m. Central. So we'd love for you to join us next time as well. And yeah, between now and then, if you need anything, you can reach out to Jared or I, and we'd be happy to help you.
All righty. Have a good one.
Bye, everybody.